Energy. It is all around us, both seen and unseen. It affects all the lives within humanity, our great planet Earth, and the entire universe. It is a conscious cosmic matrix, an ever-evolving cycle, creating, breaking down, and recreating. This is Connected with your host, Andrea Dragonfly. Andrea tells us that energy is the foundation of our human experience, intrinsically affecting every facet of our lives, our perceptions, choices, and actions, as well as the challenges, opportunities, and people we attract. So now, please welcome the host of Connected, Andrea Dragonfly.
Hey, good people. I'm your host, Andrea Dragonfly, and this is the show Connected, where we connect into all sorts of different energy, consciousness, so that we can expand the way we see the world and how and what we connect into. And so I welcome you. And we are off to the holiday season. We are at the end of November, moving into the end of the year. And so we are in that endings and beginnings. And that's one of the things we've been talking about a couple of shows ago. And I also just want to say I'm in my own ending and beginning. And so I've been going through a very interesting process of letting go of this old life and preparing myself for a new one. And in doing so, I have been incredibly shedding. So shedding skins of the person I've been that no longer I'm bringing into the new life with me. Also shedding my home. I've been cleansing and purifying, and I've been purging. And so it's been this powerful process. So when we talk about recycling and the composting of the fall, I'm really in this composting place right now. So I'm just sharing all of that with you. And I know also that last week we talked about energy allies and how I was going to put some links up on my website so that if you wanted to connect into the flower essences, it's the flower essence services. And they have wonderful allies for us to connect into over there. Now, I haven't gotten on my computer this week to kind of update all of that because I've been in this purge process and I've been in the composting process. And so bear with me, that will come. And possibly I can even get on there after the show, because part of that, when we talk about our plant allies, that was last week's show, is that they may be very helpful as we move into the holiday season. So, for many people, we're moving into, for all of us, especially in the United States, we're moving into a time of giving thanks and Thanksgiving. And so I wanted to talk about that today because it's very appropriate for us to kind of energetically prepare for that. And I did mention at the end of last week's show that I was going to talk about plant medicine. And so I'm pushing that off until we get back from the holiday break, because next Thursday, we won't be having a show. I believe all the shows will be on holiday break as well. And so we'll come back at the beginning of December. So looking at our plant allies and looking at how we were connecting into them, even with our food, and recognizing them as how they bring us the nutrients for us to thrive, right? So if we're eating healthy and we're eating a very nutritionally balanced, diet, then it really shows up in our energy. It shows up in our work. It shows up in our mental state, as well. And so it's going to give us that energy that's so needed. And we can clearly be seen by others that, like, wow, that person's thriving, right? And it can very much be connected to our food sources. Then we also talked about medicine and how we're moving into the cold and flu season and the COVID season and whatnot. And now that's interesting that we even have to say the COVID season because, how times have changed. And there are plenty of our allies out there during this time of the year that we can connect into that can shorten the duration of our cold and flus, and that can really help support the respiratory system. And again, I was talking about connecting to those plants or even formulas, because sometimes there's, a combination of plants that are going to be working on different things to help our body heal and overcome the infection or whatever that might be that is in compromising our immune systems. And so that relationship is about connecting to those plants or plant and asking it to do what you want. What is it that you want that plant to do? Help, move me through this, shorten the duration of this cold. So it's about asking for what we want. And this is again with all of our allies. And I will be talking about many allies for the weeks to come. However, we are going to be connecting into this season and the season of gratitude. So, getting back to Thanksgiving next week, I'm bringing forth our plant allies again because I want to talk about Thanksgiving as a time of coming together. And so many people are all across, the nation, especially, for the United States Thanksgiving in particular. And I know that Mexico celebrates the United States Thanksgiving as well. And so giving that to our Mexican friends down there, sharing the love, sharing the gratitude. And some people will be in environments where they're going to be with family members that they may not get along with. And we just had a very powerful US election. And I know that there are a lot of energetics playing out in the world right now, or especially in the United States. And that some family members are at odds with one another. And this is a time where you're going to possibly be in an environment where you will be interacting with, Uncle so-and-so who's got very strong opinions that might differ from your own. And so, like, how do we adapt? How do we cope when we're in these environments that we know can be challenging for us, right? And so these plant allies, and especially the flower essence services, are excellent ones. And I talked about how medicinally, herbs in particular, when we use the herbs and we are extracting them, usually through some sort of like alcohol extraction process where it's pulling out the medicinal qualities of those herbs, they work on the physiology of the body. So again, I talked about, health and about cold and flu season, but it can be anything. It could be for, healthy veins and liver and all, every organ of our body. We can work and heal ourselves or bring us back into a healthier state by using tinctures and teas and different types of elixirs and whatnot. And they work on the physiology. They work on how the body actually physiologically works together, right? Now, the flower essences, again, they work on the emotional and spiritual qualities of our being. So we have the physical body, which is more of the tinctures and the herb formulas. And then we have the flower essences, again, which are more emotional. And so those are our allies that will be very helpful if you're heading into a Thanksgiving family event and you know that you're going to be challenged by some different people. So that rescue remedy, now that's a Bach flower remedy, and you can get that at your local health food store as well. The flower essence services, I believe, are a little bit less expensive, and they just have a large variety to kind of work with and play around and look to see what's there that can really meet exactly what you may be going through emotionally. And so sometimes it's about being able to stand strong in who we are and being able to speak, our voice in a way that we can be heard and not shut down by other people who don't want to hear our perspective or our opinion, because that does happen in many family, scenarios. So I wanted to bring that forward because I know that this can be a tumultuous time for some people. And I also know that some people may not be in that family environment, that they may be isolated and that they may be having Thanksgiving on their own, or they weren't invited because they have different political views than the family at that time. I've definitely heard those stories. And so this is also that time of being able to take those flower essences to really kind of work with whatever, you know, feelings of grief or feelings of sadness or depression or whatever can also come up during this time of the season. And also even with lighting, now that, for the US mainland, we have had daylight savings time that we're several weeks in now. And so just adjusting to the fact that we have a lot less light, and even that can bring about depression. And so using our flower essences to be able to really kind of support us in those times can be a powerful ally for us to get through some of this, right? Now, moving in again to Thanksgiving, and the title of the show is called Giving Thanks, and that there is the power of gratitude. And I wanted to bring it forward because oftentimes we come together in Thanksgiving and we're grateful and we celebrate it as a holiday. However, it's not the only time that we can come together and really be grateful for our lives. Now, I don't know what your traditions might be for the holiday. I know that within my own personal family, we would go around the table during the meal and each person would share what they were grateful for. And I love that part because, we just get to really kind of see where everybody's at. And, and then as the family has been growing, of course, because my adult kids now have partners and there's other people that come in for the holidays, all the different things is that we get to, connect into the bigger community in that way. And I just also remember back like looking at some of the things that I've been grateful for. And I love how people really connect in. Again, this is about being connected. What are we connecting into? So again, we're connected into, that gratitude for our health, our well-being. If we have our health and well-being, fully healthy at that time. Excuse me. My fumbling over my words here. However, and then even some people who may not be at their full health right now, or who are working through a terminal illness, the way in which our gratitude shifts. It's not about what's immediate before us. It's about the gratitude of what has my life been like. And you don't even have to have a terminal diagnosis or be at, working with health challenges, but it's also an invitation. And even the time of the season, as we've been talking about composting and the wheel of the year, and it's about that time of like getting into reflection. Right? What did I harvest in this year? What have I been harvesting in my life? And these are the things we can tap into for a deeper sense of gratitude. And I was also just thinking about, I remember being around the Thanksgiving table and being grateful as a mother raising children in a home and running some businesses and all the things. It's like, I'm so grateful to be alive at this time where we have, washers and dryers, dishwashers, like some of those conveniences that help our everyday life be a little bit easier. Now, of course, I live in a different house now, and so I don't have that dishwasher in the same way, but I'm certainly grateful for my washer and dryer, right? Can you imagine us, having to wash clothes in a completely different, time where that convenience wasn't so readily available? So it's like looking at what do have? Now, in my time of endings and beginnings, I've been purging my house and I'm getting ready for a big move. I'm going to be moving out of Colorado and I'm heading over to the island nations of Hawaii. And so I'm going indefinitely. I don't know what it's all going to bring, but I'm going to be carrying you guys along as I go. So even in that, like today, yesterday, I have been having some of these different types of challenges, unforeseen challenges come my way. And, it's about that who am I going to be during this time of challenge? The old way of, and I'm talking old way of who I've been could be very much in this place of upset, anger, life's unfair, victim mode. Now I still tap into my victim mode still because that is part of, my incarnated process. But it's about how long do I stay there? How long do I be like, oh, I'm at the effect of this situation. Okay, I need to move myself forward in a new way. And so earlier today, I was just looking at how my travel plans have been delayed, and how one thing leads to another, and it's got like the domino effect, and all these different other things are being affected by that. And I just had to sit down and say, I'm doing a show tonight on gratitude, and so let me just start there. Let me start with, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I am living this life. I'm grateful that I've had an extraordinary life, even though my extraordinary life has been wrought with challenges. I think it's those challenges and our ability to overcome those challenges that really bring us into that place of extraordinary, right? And being able to learn those lessons and being able to move us forward in that. And so that gratitude and looking at all that I'm grateful for, the ending of 30 years living in Denver, Colorado, the gratitude of this community, the Boulder community that I've been deeply connected into as well. All of the different teachers I've had that have been in the surrounding area. The gratitude of my two beautiful, healthy, amazing children, and how they're independent and they're living their lives and they're doing their thing now and they're out in the world. And my gratitude for my ex-husband, who was a huge player of who I became in my lifetime, and much gratitude for him. So as I was looking at what this was really about for even today, I just started to tap in to really connecting to all that I'm grateful for. And within that place, there's an incredible power. And when we work with gratitude on a regular basis, hold on, I have something going on here. Sorry, excuse me. That when we work with gratitude on a regular basis, we begin to connect into one of the laws of the universe, which is the law of correspondence. So it's like energy attracts like energy. So if we move ourselves into that place of gratitude and we begin to really feel that, and if you feel gratitude, there's an energy that fills your physical flesh body, right? And there is an energy that begins to emit from us that is a higher vibration. It is connecting into the higher vibration of the cosmos. And with that, we begin to really sink into those parts of our lives that maybe we forgot about. Maybe we've been disconnected from. Even if it's the old days when life was really good and you were living the time of your life, bringing that memory forward and having that reinform you, and even reinform you as to who you are now as opposed to who you were then, right? So being able to really connect into that energy begins to bring us into this higher level of consciousness. We begin to connect into other areas of our life that actually were interesting parts of our lives, even if they were some of the most difficult parts of our lives. They helped create who we are now. And so even within that, if we have a very difficult time in our life and we don't ever fully get out of that mindset, that anger, that betrayal, that abandonment type of energy, then we didn't quite fully arrive to the place where we can be grateful yet, right? But if we have moved, and we're going to talk about that, but if we've moved past that and we recognized how essential that very difficult time was for me to become who I am right now, then we can begin to look at how powerful these lessons are and how grateful we can be with them, right? So we're going to take a quick break, 2 minutes. And when we get back, we're going to dive way into this and look at it from different angles. All right, I'll see you back here in just a couple.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBN Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
All right, welcome back. Okay, so we're looking at the law of correspondence. The like energy attracts like energy. So if a person is experiencing upset, here, I'm going to even back it up a little bit. One of the things that I love is that when I was working with the South American shamans, the Laika shamans of Peru, they had, one of their teachings was that fear and envy are the root for all illness. And I sat with that for 3 weeks. And I was looking to see if I could find something else that went in there, right? And with 3 weeks of looking at all different types of life scenarios, and then how we manifest sickness or illness or dis-ease within our physical bodies, I was really just kind of awed by really processing that and being able to kind of like, look at it from under a microscope to look to see how all of these things kind of really do unfold. And the biggest thing that I think as humans, all of us have certain types of fears. To be human, includes fear, right? It also includes love. And different people will have different fears and different relationships to those fears. Yet if we're living in fear, and this is part of our life experience, and we are uncertain. And it can be fear of anything. It could be fear of, you know, your colleague, who is shining bright and that they're going to get the promotion more than you are. It could be the fear of, this is just competition, right? And there's also envy that can be wrapped up in that, where maybe they're, really showing up, in this great light within the working environment. So there's this envy that, oh, they're getting the attention and I'm not getting the attention. And so even just looking at those two, fear and envy, if we live in that, we attract more of that to us. So then people are constantly living in a state of fear or a constant state of envy. And that envy leads to judgments. And if we're judging people negatively, then we are also attracting that to us as well. So, if you're a negative person, people may not want to hang out with you because you're a negative person. So you're attracting that energy as well. Like people are like, oh, I don't want to hang out with that person. There's no joy. There's no love. There's no, peace, ease, and flow with that person. So we kind of get detracted from that. We're like, oh. Now, when we work with these other vibrations, love, and love is in so many different forms. We can bring more love back to us. But gratitude is this one that when we sit in that gratitude of being grateful, we actually bring in more abundance. Because even if we are sitting in, wherever you are in your socioeconomic class, in just looking at what you do have. And for some people, they don't have a whole lot. They may not even know how they're going to pay their rent right now, right? But that they're grateful for the house over their head right now in the present. They're grateful that they have family that they can lean on if they need to. I'm just using that one example, but I just want to say that there's the human condition. There is infinite examples here to choose from, right? And so looking at that, it's like when we can just be grateful for the simple things, grateful for, having hot water to make your tea or your coffee in the morning, or, those are those little those little gratitudes that create the expansion within our consciousness. It allows us to expand our consciousness in a new way and connect us in to the more simple beauties of life. And by being more conscious and more connected, life will begin to shift for us in a new way. Now, I remember years ago, over 10 years ago, I was in this abundance circle with a bunch of women. And this is women working with each other on an energy level where we were bringing our stories, but also bringing our, it was a lovely circle. And we would share kind of like a teaching for the week, and we would meet once a week, and then we'd have a meditation to kind of work with that and really kind of embody that meditation. And we would go around and we would share a breakthrough and a gratitude. And the breakthrough was something that was new that came into your life that week. Something about us expanding our consciousness and expanding our awareness within our own abundance, even. And it didn't have to be much, it could be anything. It could have been a breakthrough and a new way of looking at something, a new perspective. It could have been a breakthrough in a new communication with a person that maybe, at the time I was going through my divorce. And so it was kind of like, I finally feel like I was able to whatever, a breakthrough in communicating and getting heard and being able to be received even in that share, right? So, we have all these different things. Yet that breakthrough was a way for us to become aware of those little shifts that we are having on a weekly basis when we become conscious of them. Because otherwise, we just live life and we're completely oblivious to all the little things that are actually happening with us, right? And then we came to the gratitude. What are we grateful for? And there's all sorts of different women from backgrounds that, some had very challenging lives and some were in very challenging situations at that time. And those gratitudes were those pieces that they were the gems that were able, they provided this awareness that we weren't focused on whatever hardships we might be going through at that time, but now we're focused on the things that are going well for us. And so that is the like energy attracts like energy, the law of correspondence. When we focus on what is good, what is going well for us, then we're going to pull that energy towards us. And we're going to become more connected to that energy. And more good things are going to happen to us. That's the shift. We shift into this power because there's a conscious power that when we are, imbuing this energy of gratitude, more gifts will be given to us to be grateful for. And so this is this process that allows us to kind of expand into like a whole new way of being, right? And with that, people's lives changed. And that's why that circle existed, is because it was working to bring people into a higher level of consciousness. So again, if we're only focusing on those things that aren't working for us, we're going to call in more things not to work for us. If we're only focused on how unfair life is, again, life is going to show up with more experiences that feel unfair, right? So looking back at gratitude, looking back into really pulling that forward through all the different layers of our lives. Even looking at, and I mentioned this right before our commercial, looking at those hardships that we've gone through and recognizing the growth opportunity and looking at it. So it's about reflection. Gratitude is about reflection and becoming aware of our surroundings, moving us into a new sphere of energy. So it's like, what is there for us to be grateful for? And as we're moving into very uncertain times with everything that's going on, and we are shifting, we're shifting as we're shifting into a whole new type of human, I call it an epoch. We're moving into this higher level of consciousness. And this is what's going to be happening, especially for the next 5 years. And I talked about this earlier. Even within the next 5 years, the world is going to look drastically different than it does right now. And so even being like grateful for what we have had in the past that's going to carry us forward in tumultuous times. Science is definitely going to explode and AI is going to, come in and it's going to have an impact. So right now I think it's new and everybody's like, AI, I can, use it for these things. But it's also going to impact the lifestyles of many human beings. And so if we connect into what is good and what we can be grateful for, we're going to be those ones that keep drawing in, the opportunities for us to continue to have gratitude with, right? And so looking at the people that have played roles in our lives. I just ended a relationship recently, and I had shared with some people that, yes, it's sad that the relationship ended, but I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity to learn those lessons. And he brought very significant, uh, you know, reminders of who I truly am forward for me to recognize, like, who am I? Who am I in this relationship? And who am I in the process of my development, my growth, my conscious expansion? And it's great because even so, like, I learned a lot of things in that relationship that were different than other relationships. But at the same time, it was also the culmination of all the other relationships into one as well, right? So it was like this one had its very unique areas that were going to test me, put me through the trials. But he also had brought forth old things that I had learned through my first husband, and through other relationships that came along the way. And so I was just having lunch with some very good friends of mine and sharing about the gratitude, even though it's a fresh breakup, and it's a mutual thing. So it's not like, that it's just a mutual thing when you know that we're not the best fit for one another, right? And so, and sharing the gratitudes around how I've grown from being in that relationship and how I continue to evolve myself forward. And so, again, it's about those little pieces that when we connect in, we are able to really begin to expand into these other areas of our lives. Now, there's also many books. I mean, I think, the Dalai Lama writes books about the art of happiness and the power of now, which I believe is written by somebody else. And so these are these practices. They're practices of presence, being in the present moment, recognizing that what do we have right now in the present moment? Living a life of presence. One thing that we can always count on is impermanence, that nothing is permanent. Things will always change, and that we will be changing too, and that what we once thought will evolve and will expand. And this is what we're looking at with building and expanding our consciousness, is that who you are today is not the same as who you were a year ago, right? Who you were yesterday. The influences that come into our lives are constantly evolving us, giving us the opportunity to grow and expand. And so these are those areas that we can even just tap in to gratitude. We're evolving beings, and that evolution of us is continuing the path for us to be better today than who we were yesterday. Better today, clearly, than who I was 5 months ago, because that last 5 months has really moved me, pressured me, shaped me, made me uncomfortable. And it's those uncomfortable times, even today, in my uncomfortable time of everything changing and having some challenges along the way, it's growing me. And I'm grateful for this process of evolution, even of that evolving state of being. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take one more break. And when we get back, we're going to actually really connect into this with more of a meditation. So I'll see you back here in a couple minutes.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hey, welcome back. Okay, so the power of gratitude and giving thanks. This is definitely something that I invite you to play with. I invite you to bring it into a practice, even if it's for a month, in being able to record this and see how by recording you can have a gratitude journal. And then maybe at night before you go to bed, you could think of what you're grateful for that day even, right? Now, of course, not everybody's a journaler and not everybody likes to take on these challenges. So if you're not a journaler and you're not good at writing it down, but even just the encouragement as you're laying in bed and you're getting ready for sleep, dream time, and just doing that day's reflection. So these are conscious practices that expand us spiritually. They expand us consciously. And again, the word spiritual and consciousness are synonymous. They're the same thing. Because consciousness is without physical form. Spirit is without physical form. It's our connection to the cosmic field, the quantum field. And so with that, we're looking at that reflection. If you can think of 3 things to be grateful, and you can pick whatever number you want. You can pick 1 thing to be grateful for, 3 things to be grateful for, or maybe in that day you have like 10 things in particular, but then other days you only have 2, right? Doesn't matter. It's about you doing what you do, doing what you're willing to do, right? So it's all about what works for you. Yet even in that gratitude process, that practice, the more we become conscious of it, the more we become aware of how things begin to shift within our lives. We begin to recognize that some of the good stuff is coming more our way, right? We recognize that maybe life feels a little lighter instead of it feels heavy. It just depends on how you interact with the world. So looking at that connection, allowing that practice to grow with you. And if daily for 1 month is too much, you can even possibly look at doing it once a week and looking at collecting your gratitudes for the week if you're good at being weekly about certain things, right? So it's like every Sunday you could be collecting what the significant shifts were for your week. And it even brings me back to, again, like I was talking about that woman's circle I was in, that breakthroughs and gratitudes. Just that moment in 1 week to being able to connect into, how did I show up different to life? How did I make a new decision? How did I, have something come in that I certainly wasn't expecting, that's expanding me, that breakthrough, right? And that gratitude for it. So this is an invitation to play with it. Allow it to become part of your life. And so we're working with conscious energies here. When I talked about a power behind gratitude, again, I'm talking about the law of correspondence, that what we put out, we get back. And I haven't had this show yet about all of the energy beings that live in the cosmos that are actually working that energy with us. So we are working with conscious greater beings that are in our favor for our greatest expansion of our consciousness. And so these are some of the ways that they're working with us. And we can't see them. And we think about them as just energy. But then we have to look into, well, what really is energy? There's all sorts of different kinds of energy. And some of this energy is these big angelic beings. I was talking about the hierarchies of angels several weeks ago. And so we're walking, so here we're looking at spirits of form, spirits of motion. So this one would be more like spirits of motion, spirits of wisdom. And so the spirits of wisdom are the Kyriatetes. The spirits of motion are the dynamis. And so being able to work with those high angelic orders, we're creating relationship. And they're gifting us that higher vibration to move us into a higher experience of our life. So with that, we're going to go ahead and finish out our time together. We haven't done this recently, and I do miss it. I've just had lots to talk about. But here we are. We're going to go ahead and tap in, connect into ourselves, because we are the center of the universe. Each and every one of us, we are experiencing the universe through our consciousness, right? The world. So I invite you to rest your eyes, close your eyes, and take 3 nice deep breaths through your nose, nice long exhale out of your mouth. And really we just regulate. With these breaths, we're shifting into a different state of consciousness. So allowing those breaths to really fill your lungs, and then really just exhaling all of that out, recycling the energy. And I invite you to bring your awareness into your heart space. Just find yourself really comfortable here. Even if you have a wounded heart, there is a wonderfully comfy spot in your heart that you can just relax and let go and be in the love that you create. You are the creation of love coming from this heart center. And as we're moving through this season, coming into a time to be grateful as a holiday, I invite you to reflect, first of all, on your day. Today. Wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, what are you already grateful for what has happened in your day? and acknowledging. Feel how that feels within your body. We have our physical body, we have our emotional body, we have our mental body, and we have our soul body. So feeling it in your emotional body, moving it through to your mental body, how we think about it, how we feel it. Now I'm going to invite you to bring it to your soul, and this is where the mind and the heart become one. They unify and they move into the soul, and they become even more expansive. They level up. So I invite you to bring it into your soul, that gratitude of what has already happened to you today that you are grateful for. Now, as you're in your soul body, and just, again, it's just kind of moving back through the mind and the heart into the soul, I invite you to look and reflect on this season, the fall season, the harvest season. What are you grateful for? What have you harvested in the season of fall? So this is from September 21st-ish, somewhere around there. And feel the good things that you have gratitude for. Feel them. Know them in the mental body and bring them into the soul. See them become one, unify, become more expansive. It's in this soul place that we deeply connect into the higher cosmic order. It's where we make our connections. Is we have to get out of our head and our heart. We have to move into the soul. Now I invite you to look back throughout this year. So we're going to move into summer and spring, and now we're just looking at the year. Connecting into those events that had unfolded for you, that brought you joy. Or surprises, or very hard lessons. Connect into the gratitude that you hold for them. Bring it to the soul. Offer it up. And now I invite you to even look at your life. Here we're just looking at the year, but look at the different parts of your life. The significant moments that have made you who you are. Feel your gratitude. Bring it to the soul. And I invite you to begin to come back into your body. Taking another just nice deep breath as we release those gratitudes up into the quantum, up into the cosmos. So that more of that comes back to you. More beautiful experiences to enjoy and be grateful for. As always, I want to thank you for being with me and being with me for the show. I wish every one of you a beautiful holiday and a beautiful gratitude practice, right? And so if this show had any inspiration, if there's any parts and pieces to it that you enjoyed, please, you can give it a like. If you are wanting to pass it on to somebody, please do so as well. You can always connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at connected.dragonfly. You can reach out and meet me at my website at andreadragonfly.com. And I wish you all a beautiful next 2 weeks, and I'll see you at the beginning of December. All right. Thank you.
This has been Connected with your host, Andrea Dragonfly. Join Andrea each week on an extraordinary journey, exploring the consciousness of energy and how you are connected. Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.